So now we're going to be a customer in the system, and if I click on the List All Cores link in my left menu, I can see a list of all of the existing cores in the system. So these are the cores that are now live and ready to receive user requests. I'm going to go to a core that's not live in the system yet for demonstration purposes, so we're not submitting live requests to a live, or test requests to a live core. But you would click on the name of one of these cores and that would take you to the core page. So I'm going to do the same thing, but we're going to go to one that's not live. So feel free to click on, if you are a user, feel free to click on one that is live if you are making a legitimate request. So we're going to use our biosafety containment core for testing purposes today. And the specifics around what you see displayed for each core will be different depending on what the core offers. But this one is a nice simple look at the system. There we go. So each core will have several different tabs that are consistent across the cores. The About Our Core tab gives a basic overview of services, some contact information around the core. The Schedule Equipment tab is going to exist on any core that does scheduling. So if they have scheduled services or equipment like a microscope that you might want to reserve, you will see a Schedule Equipment tab. Not all cores will have a Schedule Equipment tab if they don't do some kind of scheduled service. On the Schedule Equipment tab, you will see a list of the variety of different kind of calendars that are available for scheduling on. This particular core has just one. Some cores may have several. If they have a lot of different schedules, they may elect to categorize them, in which case you would see the category names first, and you would need to click on a category to see the sublist of calendars within that category. To access a calendar, I simply click on the calendar name, or I can click on the View Schedule link on the right. So we can go ahead and do that. Oh, I'm Nicole. Cores can determine whether they would like only trained users to access their calendars if they like. This particular core does have that set up. So I'm going to quickly go in and make Nicole, the user we are, a member. Okay, so I added the user we're logged in as, Nicole, is now a trained user on this calendar, so she can actually get in and schedule. So I'm going to just refresh the page here. And now I can actually access the calendar because my permissions have been added. A lot of cores don't have that trained user requirement. Some cores do. So if you ever land on a calendar and you can't see it, it's because they may have training access requirements there. So when I land on the calendar, I can see where there are reservations already made. And if I want to make a reservation for myself, I simply click and drag on the calendar for the time that I would like. When I do that, if I am part of more than one lab, this screen will come up. This is asking me to indicate which lab I'm making this request on behalf of. The reason this is important is because of what we just saw around the short code assignments. I may have different short codes based on the lab that I'm associated with. So lab A may have 5 or 7 different short codes, and I may be assigned to 2 of those. Lab B may have 5 or 7 of their own short codes, and I may be assigned to 2 or 6 of those. So what I'm selecting here is going to control what is displayed on the following page for my options in selecting that payment information. I'm going to go ahead and select the test lab. That's the one we were all just in, and click Next. This is going to pull up the reservation details. This page pretty much auto-populates, and there's not much else I need to do here. It's going to automatically pull the click and drag time that I selected on the previous page. If I didn't get it just right, I can come in here and auto-adjust that if necessary. And then I can select the short code. So here are the fund assignments that Nicole has. She has 3 different short codes for this lab, and I can select one of those. And then I simply need to click Save My Reservation. When I do that, you can see it was added to the calendar here, and it is orange. This one is indicating that it is pending approval by the core. So the core has now received a notification that lets them know, hey, someone made a reservation and you need to go in and approve that. Oftentimes, if you're making a reservation for something that might be staff assisted or some kind of training, or maybe it's some consulting calendar, and the consultant needs to double check their calendar and make sure that works for them, core may put a setting on that requires approval. If you are at a core that does not require approval, once you make your reservation, it will look more like this one, where it just automatically turns gray and it does not turn orange, indicating that it does not require approval. I'm going to click back to return to schedules. This will take me back to the scheduling page. If I had other reservations to make on other calendars, I could do so here. This particular core has only one calendar, so we'll go ahead and move over to the tab to the right, which is called the Request Services tab. There's two main sections in this tab. The top section is the Project Requests section. This section allows for bundled services. The bottom section is the service list and pricing. You want to think about this section like a menu of all of the core's available services. So anything that the core offers that they want to be able to offer to customers, they will list here. You can click on the category name to open the category, or you may also simply click alphabetically if you want to see an alphabetical list of everything across all the categories. Again, this is a simple core with a single service and a single project, but many cores that you'll visit will have, a dozen different services that are listed there. You'll notice that the price is displayed here. Again, this is a core by core setting. Some cores may decide not to list their prices on this page. Most of them will. And you will be able to actually see the price, and you're also going to see in parentheses the price type you have been assigned to. So for all University of Michigan folks, that will be the internal price. If I were an external customer, I would be seeing an external price listed there. So to initiate a request with this core, I'm going to go back up to this project request section. You can see there's no buttons down here to actually request this item just by itself. So the core wants me to initiate a project request. So I'm going to click on Request Service. Again, it's asking me which lab I'm making this request on behalf of because I happen to be part of multiple labs. If you are only part of one lab as a user, you won't have to do this step. It will automatically know which lab you're talking about. When I do that, then any necessary forms that the core requires with my submission will populate. These forms are entirely customizable core by core. So what you experience on one core when you submit a request is not going to be the same as what you experience on another core when you submit a request. These details are all very specific to that particular type of project request. Now, for training purposes, I'm simply going to populate some responses in these fields, but if you were submitting a formal request, you would obviously want to make sure you were responding. The responses that you submit in these in this form is going to help the core build their quote and understand what types of services are you needing for your request. Okay, so we're just going to quickly go through the form here. A lot of cores don't have forms quite this elaborate. Okay, I'm going to, once I've completed my form, I'm going to click this button, Save Completed Form. This will be the same across cores, regardless of the contents of the form. The core is determining what elements they need in that form in order to process your request. But this Save Completed Form button will be the same across all cores. So you want to go ahead and click that once you've completed your form. Sorry, I clicked the wrong back button there. So once you've completed your form, it will automatically close shut for you and collapse. If you want to review what you added again, you can simply click on the view form and you can get those responses back here. You can see everything that we just entered because I saved the form. I can collapse that again to just get it out of the way. Once you've completed your form and you've saved your form, here's that shortcode selection again. So I'm going to indicate which shortcode I'm going to be using. Again, the only things that are going to show up in my drop-down menu are items that have been assigned to me by the lab on which I've made my request. Once I've completed adding the shortcode, I simply submit request to the core. Once I've done that, I'm going to land on this View My Requests tab. This View My Requests tab is sort of a bird's eye view of all of my requests in the system for the core. This particular researcher simply has one, but as time goes on, maybe you submit one request a month or one request a week, you will have one row for each one of the requests in the system.